Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Downtown Dallas Inc. President and CEO, Courtney Garrett.
That means sit down. Oh, it worked. Good afternoon. Knock, knock. Do we have coffee around here served anywhere yet? Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Downtown Dallas Inc. Annual Meeting presented by East Quarter. We are absolutely thrilled. Another packed room here at the first of 2019. I can't even believe it. And I have to tell you, we are entering this new year with so much optimism. Our team's focus is really on hard work, evolving strategies, and a lot of action. We're challenging ourselves to be forward-thinking, creative, and nimble, all to make a difference that you'll see on the streets of downtown every day. But we are certainly not in this alone. There's unbridled confidence in how we, as a community, can continue to support existing projects and programs and create an environment where bold and innovative ideas drive our growth. Today, I'll share the results of a recent economic development survey. We wanted to know how much you really know about downtown and what perceptions of business, investment, and our urban economy exist both within and outside of this market. In other words, what expectations are set that we can positively shatter? Which leads us to then what makes a great city, and Dr. Tim Moonen, Managing Director of the Business of Cities, who will give us both a quantitative and qualitative look at the metrics of great cities and where our downtown sits in those terms in the global market. But before we dive in, I'd like to recognize so many of our leaders and partners who share in this city building mission. First, may I ask our elected and appointed officials to stand and be recognized. Specifically, here's the warm-up. We get to test who's actually here and who's not. We know that Mayor Pro Tem Casey Thomas planned to join us, as well as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Adam Medrano, who's one of our downtown council representatives, as well as Council Member Ricky Callahan, Kevin Felder, Scott Griggs, and Adam McGew. I know Adam's driving back from Austin this morning, so hopefully he made it. I'd also like to recognize the president of the Dallas Park and Recreation Board, Bobby Abtahi. Bobby, I know you're here. Thanks for joining us. And City Plan Commissioners Paul Ridley and Janie Schultz. I'd also like to thank our city manager, T.C. Broadnax, and his chief of staff, Kimberly Tolbert. Since they came to Dallas, they have not missed one of our luncheons, and I really appreciate, and I think that shows their support and commitment to downtown. Yes, that deserves a round of applause. Also, Assistant City Manager Joey Zapata, Majid Al-Ghafri, and John Fortune. We are so grateful for their ongoing partnership because we truly work with these ACMs and their directors and their staff on a regular basis. Also, yes. Also, Dallas ISD trustees Justin Henry and Lou Blackburn, thank you for your partnership in really advancing our mission to grow options for education in downtown. I would also like to thank City of Dallas, Dallas Police Department, DART Police, Dallas ISD, DART, and Dallas County staff. Please, will you all stand so that we can recognize, because these are the folks who we're really in the trenches with every day making a difference in our city. And I know there are a lot of you, so there should be a lot more standing. And finally, thank you to the countless partner organizations, community leaders, and businesses who are part of making us a great city. One of those partners, without a doubt, is Todd Interests, our presenting sponsor today. Their latest development, East Quarter, was one of our most exciting announcements last year, and they're showing progress every day. The East Quarter will deliver an entirely new district, a new district in downtown that will be home to innovative and creative companies, stellar restaurants, and improved connectivity between the Farmers Market, Deep Ellum, and Main Street. Sean, Patrick, Philip, and the entire team, thank you for all you do for downtown and for DDI. So let's take a look at a sneak peek.
Out of downtown Dallas's rich history comes East Quarter, a modern neighborhood 100 years in the making. This historic collection of 18 architecturally significant buildings spanning 6 city blocks now flourishes with distinctive spaces for office and retail. Its industry meets elegance. Artfully restored by the adaptive reuse experts at Todd Interests, developers of the U.S. Post Office Building and One Dallas Center, East Quarter unites 3 key downtown areas: Farmers Market, Deep Ellum, and the Central Business District. Easy to access, East Quarter is eminently bikeable, walkable, and soon to be bursting with lively streetscape, leading to unique retail and restaurant offerings like National Anthem, the flagship concept from Chef Nick Badavinas.
The decision to choose East Quarter for this landmark restaurant really comes down to, first of all, I believe in the project. We've got great partners, and it's, like if you want to stack the deck in favor of success, it really starts with great ingredients. So, we've got that. And the building itself deserves it. It's such a landmark building for Dallas, I think, and it's so unique in its positioning relative to kind of the urban core. I think its accessibility is fantastic. Obviously, its visibility is super, super hyper unique, which I'm immediately drawn to.
In the 1920s, this neighborhood was home to an exciting new technology, the automobile. Today, these former showrooms for Cadillac and Oldsmobile are stages for several dynamic, innovative companies who are being fueled by explosive growth.
We're excited to be down in East Quarter. We've got about 90 employees and just have been going through the renovation process in our office space, and so we've come a long way from Starbucks. We love the vibe down here. We do look at our office space as a recruitment tool, and we want to provide a place where people are excited to come and they feel proud of their space. And so we feel like the vibe's been great, both in hiring people and looking forward in as we try to hire more.
The East Quarter has been the perfect place for us to grow our business in. It's also a really great place to go and experience the city. The great thing is that we've got the Lime bikes, the Bird bikes. We can kind of just walk around. We've got restaurants that are really close by. We've got bars, which a lot of us hang out in every once in a while.
This area of town is really interesting. It's got a lot of history. A lot of these buildings are being restored to their original glory, I'd say. You don't see a lot of that in Dallas. It's a growth area, and I think that was symbolic for our business and being part of building something unique with the Todds. We do have a very creative-minded staff, from designers, engineers, people that build and make things. So I think this area of town really speaks to them. We've got lots of walkability, so you can walk to Deep Ellum, you can walk to the Farmers Market. Lots of boutique-type restaurants and other offerings in the area.
Adaptive reuse is, I think a mission for a lot of people. The idea that you can go and kind of repurpose something, celebrate what's there, tap into the history, especially for a creative type of community, that's really appealing. The East Quarter is just so loaded with kind of these undiscovered, relatively speaking, just gems of materials and textures and spans and scope that just, create this type of real creative energy. I certainly feel that there, and every single thing that I've seen down there, you walk around telling yourself they just don't build them like this anymore.
That is just so fantastic. Sean, will you come join me on stage for just a moment? Where did you go? There you are. Sean Todd, the founder, president, and CEO of Todd Interest, has led his company's renovations of the old post office and One Dallas Center, truly committed to projects that benefit the whole of downtown. I like the music. We can keep it going, right?
Keep talking, keep talking. No. Hey, Courtney,
And-
don't run off.
Oh. He likes to surprise us. And we'll see it again with East Quarter. I'm honored to call him a board member and a great ally and friend to DDI. So Sean, thank you to you and your team.
Well, thank you, Courtney. Thank you to the audience here today. Listen, an ambitious new district to our city like East Quarter doesn't happen without the involvement of a lot of people. Although it's 100 years in the making, I will tell you, Courtney, that the very first meeting that occurred, you'll remember a little over 3 years ago from today, was in your office discussing the 360 plan, the map that DDI had laid out. And absent that map and absent the hundreds of people that were involved in that, I'm not sure our firm would have pursued that. That being said, there's some people we want to thank. I hope Councilman Kingston is here, and I know that Councilman Medrano is not here. But when you think about this whole context of urban living and priority to streetscape and priority to redeeming architecture, and quite frankly, priority to the pedestrian over the automobile, reduction of traffic, Councilman Kleiman and his key role in the Transportation Committee. I'm glad you mentioned our new city manager, TC Broadnex. TC, you got a lot of people that ought to get a big raise. They've been phenomenal in this project. Majid Al-Ghafri, Mike Rogers, Lloyd Denman. This is a complicated, interesting web, and it's had a lot of people involved in doing it. It started with DDI, it will continue with DDI, and we're very thankful. Thankful for Parks for Downtown Dallas. It wouldn't have happened absent them. So thanks, Courtney. Thanks, team. Thanks for a chance to sponsor this.
Thank you, Sean. Like I said at our dinner last night to Sean, he sponsored us and still said all of that. So very, very kind words. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our chairman of the board, Ted Ben, partner with Thompson and Knight.
And thank you, East Quarter, for that incredible sneak peek. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. You know, in addition to East Quarter, we're grateful to have another year of tremendous support from our sponsors. As the only fundraising event of the year for DDI, your financial commitments are very important. They make a difference in bolstering our programs. So I'd like to just take a moment and thank some of our sponsors here, starting with our pinnacle sponsors, Headington Companies and the Jewel, Merriman Anderson Associates, Encore Event Technologies, Omni Dallas. Our urban legend sponsors include A.H. Belo Corporation, AT&T, Atmos Energy, Statler Hotel and Residences, Corrigan, Hope Global, DCEO, Jacobs, LDWW, Hunt Consolidated and Reunion Tower, Encore, Outfront Media, Page, Stantec, Stream Realty, and Trammell Crow Center. And we're also overwhelmed by the support of our urban champions. So I'd ask you to take a moment to recognize these sponsors in your program. And if you just join me in giving a round of applause to all of our sponsors who we couldn't exist without. It's been a privilege to serve as the DDI chair for the last year. A year filled with so many accomplishments for the organization. We packed a lot into 2018. DDI celebrated its 60th anniversary and provided more member and community programming than ever before. With your feedback and your collaboration, our program areas continue to become more robust, maintaining focus on our core initiatives, while at the same time adding new efforts related to our priorities, the priorities of public safety, maintenance and beautification, economic development, public policy, complete neighborhoods, urban mobility, strategic partnerships, and of course, the 360 plan. Many of you may know David Lynn, the past chair and longtime DDI board member who retired from Corrigan at the end of this year. In reflecting back, David talked about the privilege it's been to serve with DDI because it's an organization that makes a difference. It makes a difference because it gets things done. it gets results. And those results, you can noticeably see the improvements to downtown Dallas through the efforts of DDI and its partners and supporters. And so I echo that sentiment, and I just want to take a moment to highlight a few of the things that we did in 2018. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you to take out your cell phones. Keep the volume off, but take out your cell phones. Take out your cell phones because I want to tell you about this new app that we launched, and I want you to download it right now. It looks like this over here, and it's called CSay Now. And what it does, it allows you to have a real-time connection to the Downtown Safety Patrol and the clean team to request help or to report a problem. And the average response time is under 6 minutes. And then you can link the Dallas Police Department and DART from this as well. But I urge you all to download it now, and in the interest of time, I'm going to continue, but I want everybody to download it who doesn't have it. So continuing on in what we did in 2018, the DDI Family Reunification Program that we call Homeward Bound, it grew last year, reuniting nearly 300 downtown homeless individuals with their families. And what we do with this program is we find families and relatives of homeless people that are willing to help them, and then we provide the bus ticket and stuff to reunite these people. So we've found a way to help a person. Since the inception of that program in 2008, we have helped over 1,800 homeless individuals become reunited with family members. Yeah. And along with that Homeward Bound program, as we step up our focus on homeless solutions, in September, DDI launched a program to address the critical early morning hours. 2 teams consisting of Dallas Safety Patrol members, case managers from the bridge, off-duty Dallas police officers, and members of our clean team engaged homeless individuals from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. And during that 90-day trial period, they conducted 395 in-depth case manager assessments, and that resulted in 178 people receiving services from shelters or from service providers. More than 50 bridge IDs were issued, and 89 people were reunited with their families through our Homeward Bound program. And what I'm really thrilled to announce is that this program is going to return in mid-February with extended hours and additional partners like AT&T, who has committed more than 50% of our funding for 2019. I mean, homelessness is a pervasive problem across the country, and we don't have the worst of the homeless like some of these cities, but I think that Dallas can be a leader in providing homeless solutions because we can do and we care. So moving on to some of our other things, our capital improvement grant program awarded $221,000 to 15 recipients last year. Our clean team removed over 1,500 cubic yards of litter, which I'm told by Dustin is like 150 pickup truckloads of litter, and pressure washed over 2 million square feet of sidewalks. Renovations to the Main Street Playground and Dog Run are currently underway. And DDI's proposal to Dallas ISD for downtown Montessori Elementary and Middle School was selected with a goal to open by the fall of 2020. So thank you, DISD. We also had events like Discover Downtown movies that we had downtown that drew over 100,000 people downtown. And then DDI provided custom market information for brokers, investors, and other commercial real estate professionals to advance deals, including high-profile public, courtships like that of the little headquarters of that company whose name shall not be spoken. And then significantly at the DDI Mobility Committee, and this is I think very important, and staff, they authored a white paper that outlines our recommendations for key principles to guide the future of the I-30 corridor, and we continue to work with the City of Dallas and with Texas Central to ensure holistic planning for the bullet train station and the master plan around that. And then at the end of last year, DDI staff also evaluated every crosswalk in downtown. And in case you're wondering, there are 765 crosswalks. And we've started a comprehensive crosswalk repainting program. Now, the list sort of goes on, but at each of your tables, you should have a summary of the things that we accomplished this past year. And if you're really interested, you can go to downtowndallas.com on our website, and you'll find the full annual report. So I'm really proud to be a part of this organization, and I commend the DDI team and our members and partners for just a fantastic 2018. So in that vein, it's also my honor to present the Downtown Dallas, Inc. Chairman's Award. This annual award was created to recognize a company or an individual who has demonstrated outstanding commitment to and significantly impacted the progression of downtown Dallas. And this year, we'd like to award that to Jerry Merriman. So Jerry, could I have you come up on stage? Jerry and his firm, Merriman Anderson Associates, are well known to many in this room as collectively being one of the most influential and impactful forces on the revitalization of downtown. Jerry's been involved in at least 15 projects, at least 15 projects downtown, mostly historic, renovations and rehabilitations, bringing back life to buildings that once were, iconic buildings like the Statler, LTV Tower, Dallas High School, the Continental, and Lone Star gas lofts. And with his civic commitment as well, Jerry has also served on the DDI board and worked on our capital improvements and maintenance program for at least 15 years, if not longer. So Jerry, congratulations, and thank you so much for all of your service to DDI in downtown, and we would like to present you with this. Thank you, Jerry. It's always a pleasure. There are people that have given so much to this city that, behind the scenes, and it's really nice to be able to honor those people with the Chairman's Award. So now I'd like to do a little bit of more housekeeping for the annual meeting here. First of all, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our 2018 Board of Governors. And so if I could ask all those people to please stand. The 2018 Board of Governors for downtown Dallas. If you're here, stand up, stand up. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to downtown and to DDI. And so with that, it's now my pleasure to present the slate for the 2019 Downtown Dallas, Inc. Board of Governors. And I'm going to make a motion that we approve that slate. Do I have a second? All right, I've got here a second. Any objections? Hearing none, then the motion is so approved. And so that's our 2019 Board of Governors. And with that, why don't you continue with your lunch, and we'll be back with the program in just a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Downtown Dallas Inc. President and CEO Courtney Garrett.
All right, I know we're not giving you a whole lot of chatting time, but we'll give you some time afterwards. That's why we kind of extend the beginning. But I want to keep the program moving and promise we'll get you out of here on time. Please continue to enjoy your lunch. We'll have dessert out shortly as well. And we want to get to our keynote presentation because I know I'm very excited about it. But as a little bit of a warm-up, you know, we talk a lot about great cities. We talk a lot about how to make Dallas one of the greatest cities in the world. And from my very obviously biased standpoint, downtown is absolutely critical in that conversation. And with $6 billion of investment over the last 15 years, an energized focus on policies that shape urban place, an engaged community, enriched arts, and strengthened tax base, I'd argue that we're a pretty solid anchor for the region and still growing. The downtown market remains strong, leading the city's population growth. We've gone from 200 residents in one building 20 years ago to now 12,000, with 70,000 living in connected neighborhoods. Demand isn't slowing either, with another 12,000 units under construction or announced. 2018 brought positive net absorption of over 650,000 square feet of commercial office space, making downtown the top commercial leasing market in DFW in 2018, according to a recent CBRE report. Yes. Now, our numbers show 668,000, but who's counting? 16 more acres of green space are on the way. Grocery stores and bodegas are opening. We continue to grow options for education at all levels, knowing that it is absolutely essential that we provide choices for our residents and our workforce, and that we continue to nurture the talent pipeline. Finally, strategies to create complete neighborhoods are advancing from the 360 plan, including a priority on diversifying housing and improving mobility. Yet even with all of that and more, our most recent survey results have a pretty big headline that you might not know, like really know, all that's going on in downtown. So we conducted this work with the help of LDWW and Sendero Consulting at the end of last year, and many of you participated in this effort. Our goal was to really find out what are those very specific decision-making points that companies are using when they choose to either move or renew in any particular area. What are the perceptions of downtown Dallas? What are the true perceptions that are out there today? And then how should we position downtown moving forward to be competitive with today's and tomorrow's companies? So you can see kind of the broad base of folks that we talk to, from economic development partners to downtown advocates, a lot of folks in the brokerage community, all in all, people who have direct influence on these deals. So one of the first questions was, what factors do you consider when you're selecting an office location? And of course, you see costs there. But what's interesting is if you look at those next three categories that add up to 63% of the factors, culture, the fit, walkability, and talent attraction, these things have to do with more environmental and social factors than necessarily economics and logistics. Now, when you think of downtown Dallas, what comes to mind asking about those perceptions? And I have to tell you, this was a bit surprising to me that there's still a perception out there that downtown is inactive or unsafe. But in those next categories, you see this growing awareness, urban activity, there's a renaissance going on, there's a great and engaged community. So that awareness is changing. Why was downtown Dallas selected for those who chose to move or renew here? Number one, and overwhelmingly so, you see walkability and amenities. Then cost comes into play, and we're still a great economic proposition. But again, looking at culture, fit, talent attraction, and overall excitement about what's going on downtown. This is making a real difference in these decisions. Now, a really important question, why was downtown not selected? And here we see the story of schools that we've been talking about quite a bit. Other challenges include parking, that was talked about some of the time, a little bit of conversation about economic incentives, and some about safety concerns. Now, I'm going to come back to this in just a minute. What changes would you make to downtown? There is a significant theme here of mobility. Look at that first bar, improve public transportation, and then at the bottom, connect neighborhoods. There is a desire to be able to move around downtown in a more efficient and effective way, a lot more options for multimodal transportation, improving walkability. Those are all themes that carried throughout this work. So let me talk a little bit about some of those headline perceptions, or as I like to call them, misperceptions. There are not enough parking spaces downtown. We hear this all the time. Well, in actuality, there are 70,000 parking spaces downtown. And from recent conversations with parking operators, we know that even at peak time, there is generally 10% capacity available in most of our parking lots and garages. Now, one of our challenges is there is limited signage. Wayfinding can be quite challenging. And our willingness as Dallasites to walk more than a block to our parking from our apartment, I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? That's a bit of a challenge here. But what we need to keep in mind as we're planning is we certainly want to make sure that we're competitive in the marketplace. Don't get me wrong. But we also want to keep in mind that mobility trends nationally are changing. That single occupancy vehicle use is decreasing, particularly with millennial generations, and particularly in urban areas where you see more options for public transit, more options for living close to where you work, and so on. Dallas ISD is not a good option for my children. Let's talk about that one for a minute. First, let me address schools on the whole in downtown. We actually have 30 schools that serve the downtown area, and those range from pre-K on up to higher ed. We have some great charter systems, public schools, schools that serve the core that maybe aren't necessarily located in downtown. But Dallas ISD in particular, let me encourage you to dig in on these recent headlines. One of the nation's fastest improving districts, that was from Great City Schools within the last year. Our Choice School program is doing just that. It's giving us more choices no matter where we live in the city. 24 Dallas ISD campuses scored 94 or higher according to a recent TEA ranking. And downtown has been identified by the district as an innovation zone, and this is anchored by great schools like City Lab High School, Booker T, and Early College High School. And you heard Ted talk about the fact that we continue to work with the district to open a new downtown elementary school by the fall of 2020 that will be one of these innovation schools. Downtown is dead after 5 p.m. Well, to that one, I just say you must not have been here lately. Because you can see here, in the downtown core alone, the number of restaurants, shops, our residential base is bringing more life to our streets. 23 hotels in the downtown core, drawing tourists and convention business, adding more life, more vibrancy. So I can't believe that downtown is dead after 5 p.m. Downtown is not walkable. Well, our walk score is actually 90 and above, actually, in most places. The walk from Clyde Warren Park to Main Street is just 15 minutes. You would do that in New York all day long. How about downtown Dallas is basically only for suits and ties? Well, we have 11 co-working spaces in downtown, 7 accelerators or incubators, 3 code academies, and downtown is home to Dallas's first innovation district in the West End. We have 3 of the top 10 fastest growing tech companies and 9 of the 13 largest architecture firms. That's showing the diversity of our downtown industry base, as well as the growth of the creative and the innovative industries. Downtown Dallas is unsafe. Well, this is a perception that we've been battling for a couple of decades now, and in actuality, downtown Dallas is the safest downtown in Texas, and our crime statistics will rival some of the safest neighborhoods in the city. And if you're downtown, if you work downtown or you live downtown, you have access to additional resources like our Downtown Safety Patrol, the Dallas Emergency Response Team, or the Downtown Camera System. Now, that doesn't mean that we can just sit back and relax. That is fundamental. If we're not clean and we're not safe, then we understand this investment is for naught. And a lot of the programs that Ted talked about are new programs rolling out from us this year to address more of those quality of life issues. So what we think is that you may know a lot about this project or this plan, or that you may be passionate about walkability or innovation or the next big corporate relocation. But what you may not know is really how the whole of downtown is truly greater than the sum of its parts. I said this before, but it's worth saying again. We were the #1 commercial office leasing market in DFW last year. Y'all, that's a huge headline. 500,000 square feet of co-working space, $6 billion of investment. Our residential numbers continue to climb. We have 23 projects planned or under construction today in downtown and another 50 throughout the city center. 37 hotels in the city center, 23 of those are downtown. We opened 5 hotels alone in downtown last year, and another 6 are under construction. 16,000 college students are enrolled downtown right now. And as a region, and I like to think that downtown is really a driver of the region, our region has the 7th largest high-tech job concentration in the country. What that means is that we have twice the number of tech jobs than Austin, and we're the #1 metro for attracting skilled talent. So what's making up all of those statistics is these individual projects and how they come together as that whole. We heard a lot about East Quarter. These are all projects going on right now. Wonderful project, really knitting together the east end of downtown. High-speed rail, one of the most transformational projects in downtown's history. This project will generate $36 billion in economic development to the state of Texas over the next 25 years, and even that is projected to be low once you start to take into account the full station area plan and the high-intensity, high-density mixed-use development that will connect downtown with the south. The AT&T Discovery District, $100 million investment in downtown. They are the only Fortune 10 firm to have their corporate headquarters in a downtown location. That is so significant in terms of their commitment to our downtown. The UNT Dallas College of Law will move into the renovated municipal building this summer. That will have 500 students day and night in that campus. And the Drake Stone is Headington's first multifamily venture in downtown, which brings their total investment in downtown Dallas to $500 million. And we all know they're not stopping there. Work continues on the Drever to bring Thompson Hotel, multifamily, retail, and our most challenging redevelopment project to date. And this is the last of more than 40 vacant buildings that existed downtown just about 20 years ago. Pacific Plaza will open this fall, one of 4 new parks coming to downtown, and West End Square will soon follow, the nation's first smart park, also adding much needed green space to the West End. And I mentioned before that downtown is home to Dallas's first innovation district. Well, the Dallas Innovation Alliance has taken 4 blocks in the West End, and they're testing 9 smart cities technologies. And this is attracting companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield's Innovation Lab and the Sam's Club Innovation Center. And the Luminary project is following within that theme, incorporating smart city technology throughout the project. We'll have Corgan's headquarters in this building, as well as 160,000 square feet of additional creative office space. And the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum, also under construction in the West End, will spark dialogue, very, very important social dialogue, and become a national destination right here in our downtown. Moving into the Arts District, you have a $135 million investment in the renovation of Trammell Crow Center and new construction 2000 Ross, the 45-story Amley Residential Tower, Hall Arts Hotel and Residences, bringing 50 luxury condos and a 183-room boutique hotel to fruition in the Arts District, Atelier Flora Lofts, bringing important artist, affordable artist housing to the Dallas Arts District, as well as over 300 market rate residential units. And moving to the farmers market and all of the excitement going on there, Taylor Lofts, under construction now, one of the most recent residential projects in that neighborhood, is still under construction and it's already 80% leased. And as we look at some of the important infill projects, the Union is one of those, as it really brings together Uptown, Victory Park, and the downtown area, bringing multifamily, commercial office, and a 50,000 square foot Tom Thumb grocery store. And at a similar vein, we have the Epic, connecting the east end of downtown with Deep Ellum. And this project absolutely defines mixed use. You have hotel, residential, retail, commercial office, restaurant use, and historic preservation. We continue to make advances in urban mobility as we look at the 360 Plan priorities on improving our infrastructure, improving multimodal choices, and prioritizing pedestrians and bikes. And our arts and culture assets are absolutely astounding. By 2017, the Dallas Arts District had an economic impact on this city of almost $400 million. The Dallas Arts District is also updating its master plan. They're calling it Dallas Arts District Connect. And that really brings together a unified vision for the district with a priority on street level activity and filling in those spaces between the spaces. So what's next? Later this summer, we'll be rolling out a bold campaign aimed at corporate recruitment and retention, a campaign that will tell the story of the whole of downtown, the economic proposition, as well as the story of our innovation, quality of life, and talent. How downtown, and thereby all of Dallas, will shatter your expectations. Now, does all of this make us a contender as a great global city? How are downtowns positioned in current and future economic trends? Why do downtowns really even matter? And just how are we doing? Those are just a few of the points that you'll hear from Dr. Tim Moonen. Dr. Moonen is Managing Director at the Business of Cities, an urban intelligence firm based in London, working with more than 50 cities and institutions worldwide each year. He leads benchmarking, advisory, and research projects, evaluating how cities perform and their long-term capacity to manage growth, working for more than a decade with organizations we know such as Brookings, OECD, World Bank, JLL, and the Urban Land Institute. Tim has been active in long-term planning, urban market investment strategies, and place leadership in many regions from New York, Atlanta, San Diego, and Philadelphia to Moscow, London, Singapore, and Sydney. He's tired and a bit jet-lagged, as you'll hear once he starts talking. A little teaser there from our Brit. Tim also teaches executive-level education for international companies and universities and is co-author of the book World Cities and Nation States. Please help me welcome Dr. Tim Moonen.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you, Courtney, thank you, Ted, thank you to the magnificent DDI team that have welcomed me so warmly these last 24 hours. Thank you to the sponsors and the partners who have made this event possible. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really relieved, actually, that the weather that I brought over from London, Dallas just seems to have seen it off, and only the rest of the United States appears to be suffering right now. But what I'd love to do while you're finishing off your desserts is to really talk to you a little bit about the outside-in perspective. What do people like myself coming to Dallas, having a global view about the way that cities are changing around the world? What does our work tell us from working with, as Courtney said, 50 cities and institutions each year, tell us about how the future of downtowns are going to play out? And from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've read, I share the optimism of Courtney, the DDI, and so many of you in this room about the future of Dallas. But I want to also offer some remarks and reflections that I think and some questions that I hopefully will offer some ideas and answers to as well about the future for downtown. And those might be, firstly, what are those big global changes that are going to happen, that are underway and that are going to shape the future of Dallas and its downtown and how the whole city and the metro are going to compete in the future. What is it that we can really learn? What are the inspirations that we can gain from looking at other cities around the world that are on this journey? And what might the next cycle of opportunities, next cycle of growth look like, and how might Dallas and its downtown get there? So if we're going to think about any of the ideas and the answers to those questions, I think we've got to start by saying to ourselves, there is now no doubt any longer that we are living in the century of cities. This is it's a unique time in history when the world is going to 85% urban, when metros are really now starting to power the regions and the nations in which they operate. And the scale of what's happening around the world is pretty astonishing. The Metroplex is a huge metro by any standards, but there are actually 100 metros already around the world, as large or larger than the Metroplex, and many other small, medium-sized regions that are emerging, developing very distinctive roles in the global economy, whether they're hubs for new industries, whether they're serving and producing content for global consumers, whether they're destinations for tourists and students and everything else, much, much, much more. Now, the century of cities, the comeback of cities, we might say, doesn't just sit in isolation. It sits alongside and happens at the same time as all these other trends that you know about very well. Some that we might think of, the fact that people are living longer, the rise of the Asia Pacific as a competitor and as a market, the fact that exponential technologies are changing the future of the economy, the way that there's so much disruption about what the future of energy, what the future of the climate will look like. This is also an age, I think, when capital has returned to cities and investment in cities from capital is really taking off, not just in real estate, of course, but also in infrastructure systems, in all kinds of assets in which are currently and increasingly held in cities. You put these trends together, and nearly every scenario you think of, I think, points to these trends accelerating demand within cities for urban services, urban experiences, especially in those cities that have got the ingredients to satisfy that demand. It's also a time, though, of rising expectations about what cities deliver, greater risks of more cities losing out, not actually winning what they need to do. And it also means more cities potentially getting stuck in a narrow model of success. So what this means is, for all cities, for everybody in this room and beyond, there is a more requirement for using the tools and the tactics to make sure that cities compete and can change and adapt. Now, so far, what we can see through all the evidence looking at cities around the world is that the comeback of cities sees a resurgence of demand in downtowns. It's not only people looking to move back to enjoy city centre living. It's tourism, it's retail, it's universities, it's many segments of advanced technology that are observing, as you know, that downtowns are the places that offer the best conditions for efficiency, for proximity, for interaction, for visibility to the customers that they have. Businesses, we might say, across the spectrum are adjusting all of their operations to take account of the power of cities and to leverage that power. Business costs, as Courtney observed in that survey, business costs and business climate are now just one of many, many other considerations that drive why businesses choose to operate and work from and grow within cities. And that actually their access to talent, ideas, partners also becomes a critical consideration. And the result is that you're seeing a lot more companies like AT&T around the world becoming a lot more invested and attentive into the future of their cities and the way that downtowns in which they operate perform as places. And I think this is a great opportunity for Dallas and other downtowns. Not only that, we're seeing the new generation of technologies is producing companies whose very, very business models depend on the density, the diversity, the high trust, the high coordination that only central cities actually inherit, particularly in a North American context. And we might say that companies like Uber and Airbnb and Zipcar are just the tip of a much bigger iceberg where the future of business is also very much urban. So far from accelerating the dispersal and demise of cities, as is often predicted, we might say that these new technology-powered economies from innovation, the trade in innovation, asset sharing, the rise of memorable experiences as driving in the economy, these create the new rationale for the urban district, like the downtown, as a venue, as a host for discovery, for surprise, for affiliation, for enterprise. It is high-quality places in high-performing metros, ladies and gentlemen, that I think are going to create the stickiness for innovation to happen in cities, and what talent and companies are going to keep them sticking around. And this is what cities like Dallas need. So what does this mean for downtowns? If we look around the world and those 100+ cities that we work in, but many others, we might observe that nearly every other city and metro is somewhere along a journey towards recognizing that you cannot have a successful metro and a city without a dynamic downtown as its engine and as its heart. The way that cities have grown and their infrastructure has grown out means that downtowns are the places that make it easiest to get from people's homes and to their jobs and their essential services. It's downtowns that inherit the scale to suit the business-dense clustering that an advanced economy needs. It's downtowns that have the diversity and the institutional depth to foster art and culture and knowledge. And in a North American context, I'd say that downtowns are the places that have got the potential to grow, to expand, to continue developing their roles and accommodate growth in a sustainable and productive way. So the case, I would say, is that investing and supporting in downtowns is very clear, and that's being recognized all around the world by governments, not because there's a favoritism towards central places, but because there's a shared appreciation that a downtown creates all kinds of positive spillovers that can then serve the aspiration of a metro, both competitive and inclusive. This is the deal, I would say, that is always being struck in all places in the world that we work in, whether it's Stockholm region in Sweden or Osaka region in Japan or Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, Johannesburg in South Africa, Greater Manchester in the UK. These places are recognizing that a successful core and a successful downtown drives an inclusive and successful region. So we can see that case stacking up. However, as you all know very well, that this doesn't necessarily translate to easy outcomes in reality. Downtowns often face all kinds of challenges because, as we've heard, the effects of 50 years of sprawl mean that so many residents very rarely access downtown and therefore have low affinity, low affection for what they find here. They often have all kinds of misperceptions, as we've heard. Governments might also try to legislate for more residential in the urban core, but then accidentally, inadvertently incentivize development at the fringes. You see all kinds of challenges around short-term political cycles, which means that downtowns find it hard and have to work very hard to achieve consistent infrastructure investment to serve all of the demand that they're now beginning to experience. So these are the challenges, and DDI and other organizations working on behalf of downtowns around the world have to work very hard at these. But despite those challenges and those obstacles, it's very obvious to us that downtowns are gradually going to develop that bigger residential base. They're going to become hubs for advanced industries. They're going to become destinations in their own right, and they're going to serve as places for experimentation for smarter city living. And these trends can more or less, if you look around the world, be seen everywhere. And they're forcing downtowns to think about how they're going to manage that change, how they're going to build the system to operate. We've already heard some interesting things that have been going on in the last 12 months in Dallas. Where and how are you going to grow the transport? How are you going to grow the capacity in land use and for services? In what ways are you going to bring the public spaces and the heritage assets to life? How are you going to unleash citizens to take a lead? These are big questions, and I think it's very clear from what I've seen in my short time in Dallas and all the research that we've done in the lead up to this, that Dallas is thinking very carefully about these challenges. And it's apparent also to me that Dallas has made an awful lot of progress in this last period of time at building that residential population up to 12,000 and more, forging that shared vision, raising the rate of investment. And the numbers are showing, as we've seen, that more people over time are enjoying the urban lifestyle, more people are using multiple modes of transport, more people are craving the walkability, the electricity that only downtown is able to provide right now in Dallas. And in my mind, I think this momentum is going to be amplified really a great deal by the prospect of that world-class high-speed rail line that we've heard about. That's not going to just create a whole suite of development opportunities, but this is going to completely put downtown Dallas on the global map, I would argue, as the urban heart of a 16 million person region that connects to Houston and Dallas. It's going to catapult Dallas into a new conversation in the mind of the world where competition might be more with Southern California, it might be with Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, it might be with Milan and Turin and the Northern Italy powerhouse, if that opportunity can be seized. I just want to touch briefly on the question and the implications for what this means for Dallas's competitive position. What we've done is crunch the numbers across more than 250 benchmarks. These are studies, comparative indexes, and everything else that measure how cities and also metros perform and how they are perceived around the world. And we've looked at how Dallas is performing relative to 20 cities, 10 in the US, 10 around the world, that it shares quite a lot of similar attributes to. You can see that group on the bottom left. What we see, and I want to just go through this very briefly, really, just to say that Dallas performs well in the areas where it benefits from its scale, its pace of growth, its appeal to corporates, its phenomenal real estate performance, as we've heard, and its technology capabilities, which are often overlooked. But in terms of the efficiency and the international reach of this metro and this city, it's clear that what's needed now to support that broad-based economy as it urbanizes, Dallas is falling a little bit short. And if we dig into some of the available figures on the urban fabric and urban feel, we see that Dallas as a whole is in the middle of the pack among US cities. And though its scores are very much dragged up by the high walk scores of downtown Dallas and its surroundings, this relative size and scale, if you look at the bottom left of downtown relative to the city and wider region, is not yet large enough to help it fully establish the whole region, its reputation for this renewed urbanism that we see everywhere as we walk around this area. Where I think Dallas is making progress, though, very clearly relative to other cities and moving faster, is in studies of perception and the preferences of a younger generation of talent, where Dallas is really starting to achieve a new level of performance and visibility because of the amenities, the cost equation, the growing access to culture and affordable lifestyle. What we've also done is reviewed Dallas's perception. This is across all international media where Dallas is described and referred to, Europe, Canada, Asia, and Latin America in the last 2 years. And it shows us that although the rest of the world senses something really exciting is happening in Dallas, think of all those words on the right-hand side, actually, Dallas isn't yet widely associated with enough distinguishing or iconic characteristics to drive that critical mass of external demand. And this is where the role of downtowns come back in. There's so much more to say from all of that data, but we might just say that Dallas is undoubtedly succeeding, it's competing as a capable and successful city and a metro and a business hub. But as the economy is starting to urbanize in all the ways we've just discussed, Dallas's inherited low density and relative uneven pattern of development presents a series of risks, and it means that Dallas needs its downtown to succeed if it's to avoid some of these costs of unmanaged growth, and it's going to need to create a downtown that's going to continue to grow in the way that we've seen if it is to build that higher value business brand that's going to attract more and higher quality opportunities to all of Dallas. I want to touch very briefly on what the rest of the world is doing. 3 examples of small and medium-sized cities and 6-7 million person metros, Melbourne, Milan, Toronto, 3 places where the rejuvenation of downtown was by no means ever a slam dunk. You might look at Melbourne, for example. It's been on a 25-year journey to grow its downtown population from 1,000 to 60,000 consistently since 1990 or so. What were the catalysts? There were many. I'll just point to 3. Firstly, major university campuses moved back downtown, started to attract large numbers of students to live in higher density and in turn encourage the revival of retail in the CBD. Secondly, Melbourne decided to create an entirely free tram system inside the city centre, which encouraged a hop-on, hop-off culture to sample different districts within the CBD, and more people from the Melbourne region started to ditch their cars when they arrived at the CBD. At the same time, Melbourne started to realize that it had to invest in a cohesive identity, a projection to the world that expressed the creative and carefree DNA of that Australian city in a way that neatly cut across its offer to business, its offer to students, its offer to talent, its offer to events and everything else. And that's expressed so well in some of the major events that Melbourne hosts, like the Australian Open tennis. This was all underpinned, of course, by 20 years of the city government being very sustained in its focus on ensuring that the design and planning adjustments would be developed to retrain the focus of the administration on the user experience and the user demand that was going on in the downtown. It's a slightly different story in Milan, which, like Dallas, is a business hub witnessing renewed energy in its urban core. What Milan's done is use the arrival of the high-speed rail in Turin to adopt a very systematic approach to unlocking the space around the rail stations that are in downtown and doubling at the same time, using this redevelopment to double the amount of tree cover across the CBD in just 10 years. And what Milan's also done is use this cycle to develop a proposition about what the city role is in Europe and in the world, and sequence that with a second cycle that's very public and very clear of targeted investment to create and unlock next centres in priority inner suburbs in the second period of time. The last example I want to mention is Toronto. What it's done, it relocated state government medical hospitals back in, with the R&D functions of them, back into the downtown. It developed a network of highly specialized, very well-branded districts with very distinctive signage and signposting for those of you that have been, that provides an unmistakable sense of where you are in the downtown. And it assembled the last bits of public land on the waterfront to build a new governance model where multiple tiers of government work together, insulate themselves from the political cycles, and sustain a 20-year process of transformation. What are the results? Toronto is a region where all of the major companies operating regionally have now got some offices downtown because they recognize they have to have the best access to the regional labor market. So no two cities do this in the same way. Dallas should find inspiration from all of these. But what they do have in common, I think, are four things. And I think we're already seeing this in Dallas, and that's why it's so exciting. They identify the opportunities to transform specific locations and districts, and importantly, match that with the right sense of scale and ambition and resources. They have a vision for downtown that's owned, that's championed by the public and private stakeholders, and translates that into real partnership that we can see here. The success of the city centre is then starts to be appreciated as part of the shared story of the whole city, and then mechanisms and adjustments are continually invented in these downtowns to manage the higher levels of demand that they're beginning to experience. So, to conclude, what might this mean for downtown Dallas as it enters its next cycle? I would argue that all of the great cities of the world that have seen the rejuvenation of their downtown evolve through clear and distinct stages. And to simplify greatly, we might say that in the first cycle, the focus is on a small number of physical projects and of just simply securing the livability of the downtown. In the second cycle, there's more serious planning that goes on, adjustments to transport and mobility are made, tools for repurposing, and more systematic placemaking start to appear. In the third cycle, the residential influx into downtown really reaches its peak. Critical mass occurs. Downtown starts to express a unified identity and a story for a wider part of the city. And then cities that reach that fourth cycle now start to address questions of demand management, multi-center development, and what are the reforms that are enabled to do that. The question is, where would Dallas fit on this cycle? I'm not sure, but my guess is that Dallas is somewhere about here. You might say that there is a very clear sense that Dallas is more than halfway through its second cycle of building capacity and capability, as we've heard, shifting perceptions in the way that we've also seen, re-establishing confidence. But there might be a need for a third cycle that Dallas has to prepare for. And what are some of the things that appear in that third cycle that are relevant to Dallas, I think? Firstly, it's a surging demand to enjoy city center living that's matched by agile planning and other systems, not just to accelerate the residential population base, but also critically to diversify the housing mix so a wider variety of people can access the inner city. Secondly, downtown starts to develop its own set of vernaculars with very clear sense of the distinct edges of different neighborhoods. And I think in this third cycle, a resurgent downtown tends to help the whole city, as I mentioned, start to project itself more effectively, tell the world what kind of city it is and what it wants to become. And this, to me, seems like a very pertinent question for Dallas, especially once the impact of high-speed rail has arrived in this city. I think that downtowns like Dallas have to do this. They have to enter this third cycle, because if the momentum stalls, the risk is the city as a whole begins to fail to differentiate itself. That sense of place and belonging starts to fall short relative to other cities. Dallas might get locked into permanently promoting itself primarily as a low-cost place to do business, and the city might not capture the full slice of the innovation economy that it's starting to in order to create the next generation of jobs it's going to have to do to serve the population. Other cities in Texas might move ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, think of the opportunities that are here, but also the risks and the costs in terms of tax revenues, job space, real estate performance, and contingent liabilities if the next cycle isn't pursued with vigor and if these risks materialize. So to conclude, the global experience from our perspective really tells us that for Dallas to succeed, it's going to need to ally these competitive fundamentals of this great metro with the new edges that a downtown and a greater downtown can uniquely provide. That urban lifestyle, that urban character, that quality of place, the institutional collaboration, the business networks that breed the ecosystem that the future economy is going to provide. This begs the question, ladies and gentlemen, what would other ambitious and capable metros now entering this process and in this period of time, now what would they now be contemplating? I think they might consider these 6 agendas, and I'll leave you with these. Firstly, they'd be starting to think about how to set a very ambitious 5 or 10-year target to double residential population downtown and to use it to raise the standard and the number of Dallas's amenities and transport efficiency. Second, they would start to really vigorously invest in the brand and in the economic story, particularly to explain what is Dallas's proposition as it becomes half of this amazing 16 million person region. What is the new competitive horizon that creates, and how can Dallas really react to that proactively? Thirdly, I think, as we've heard, they would put every collective effort into making sure that this new district that's going to emerge around the high-speed rail station really is world-class, with attention being paid also to that corridor that's going to connect the district into the middle of downtown. Fourth, they would start now, as we see happening, to actively curate these specialized districts with different functions, recognizing that there are different kinds of nuance about how you do placemaking in one place to curate the experience economy, in another place to have the public spaces that foster knowledge and learning and exchange, and in other places the makerspace environments for the new advanced industrial economy and other jobs of the future. These things need to be developed very actively. Fifth, I think these cities would look across their city and the metro and say, are our assets in the right place? Are our medical hospitals, are our knowledge economy assets, are our universities, our congress centers, our stadia, our major retail, are they actually in the optimum location for this reurbanizing city? Especially a city that's about to become part of a much larger urban economy. And finally, I think high-speed rail in this city is going to transform things in more ways than we might realize. And we have to think about what is the next catalyst that's going to follow, to support it and follow it, and how do you identify that, and how do you go after it? So I think these are some of the questions that might offer food for thought for the leaders that we see in this room and its downtown as it enters its extremely exciting period in its history. And I think that has to involve everyone here and everyone in the city. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the next chapter of Dallas's evolution and its role of the downtown unfolds. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Just love it. I think something that resonated with me, and the first time I was getting the sneak peek of the presentation, it was that cycles of a city slide, and I was looking at the first one before he calls out where he thinks Dallas is, and I think it was absolutely right on point. We're between that 2 and that 3. So when we make the presentation available after the event, which I'm told we'll be able to, I really encourage you all to dig in on that and some of the other slides, because I think, A, a lot of this is so in line with the 360 plan, but B, I think it's offering us a new way to look at some things and maybe how we can help to bolster and better connect something that we say a lot, this conversation of downtown and the city, as we find the city's voice and the city's brand, and how downtown can be a big anchor to that. So Dr. Moonen, thank you so much. I think you've given us so much to really think about and to talk about and help inform how we move forward. So quickly before we break, I want to take a moment to thank a few folks, particularly on the DDI team and the event production team at Ensemble. Kat Diggs, Shalissa Perry, Kelsey Corneli, and Kashan Patterson. They have done an absolutely beautiful job orchestrating this event. Can you please help me thank them? And a few key announcements. Please save the date for our fall membership luncheon that'll be right here back in this room on September 19th. Check out our website's we'll have a relaunch, kind of a refresh of the site, downtowndallas.com next month. And certainly don't forget your t-shirts that are at your seat provided by East Quarter. And finally, one lucky person will play a little game. We'll be able to take home the beautiful centerpiece by the Dried side, which if you haven't been on Instagram lately, I think because of Ensemble's posts, these are making a whole Instagram thing happen. It's pretty cool. So whoever's birthday is closest to today gets to take the centerpiece home. So you can chat amongst yourselves, use that as an opportunity to talk to your neighbors as soon as we adjourn. Thank you again for being a part of this discussion. Thank you for helping us to take action. Oh my gosh, we're cheering. This is great. Thank you all for being here. How about this? We're adjourned. Thank you.
That punk is playing at my house. I'll show you the ropes, kid. Show you the ropes. Got a bus and a trailer at my house. I'll show you the ropes, kid. Show you the ropes. I bought